Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Samar Hassan, and I'm the founder of Epiphany. And I'm back with the first Smashing It for the year 2021. So, super exciting. We've got really, really wonderful guests planned for the year 2021, starting off with Samia Qamar today, who's the director for people at S&P Global. So, we'll talk about Samia in just a quick second. But before I introduce her, I would like to introduce the concept of smashing it. Some of you know already. Smashing it started off because we believe that women in Pakistan need fantastic role models. We need to celebrate the ordinary amongst us. And when I say ordinary, actually they're extraordinary. It's just that we haven't bothered to look beneath the layer and actually talk to them about all of the hard steps they've had to take, the decisions they've had to make to be able to pursue successful careers while managing and balancing their personal lives. So, Smashing It is about sharing strategies, it's about sharing leadership messages, it is about celebrating Pakistani women. We started off by thinking that we just need to talk to the ordinary amongst us, the ones who are not very well known, not so famous perhaps. Maybe they are famous in a very small realm, but we realized that we also need to include the ones who are famous personalities because the challenges are similar. So it doesn't matter if you've become a politician or if you've become the head of a bank. By the way, we have very few women who are heads of banks. So this year, inshallah, we're going to bring on one of them for Smashing It. So overall, this is something that we wanted to do with Smashing It. We've been running it since 2017. Obviously, because of COVID, it just gave new impetus and new life to this. And we've had guests who are Pakistani living elsewhere in the world as well. Okay, now let me jump to Samia. So, who is Samia? What does she do? She's going to tell you a little bit about herself. But I'm just going to start off by mentioning that she's got more than a decade worth of experience in human resources with multinational companies within multiple industries, which includes healthcare, management, consultancy, hospitality, financial services. But I think what drew me to Samia was also the fact that she is a Goodwill Ambassador. She was a Global Goodwill Ambassador for Pakistan, and she was awarded that for her contributions towards the community in 2018. And then she was also awarded Exceptional Woman of Excellence by Women Economic Forum for her professional endeavors in the community. So, without much ado, I'm going to welcome Samia to the stage, and let's hear from her. Assalamu alaikum, Samia.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for making me feel so special today. A very happy new year to everyone, whosoever is watching. I'm extremely thrilled to be here with you all today.
Absolutely wonderful to have you, Samia. So, Samia, tell us about yourself. आप खुद थोड़ा सा अपना तारुफ भी करा दें.
Sure, I'm more than happy to do that. So aside from, what I do professionally, I'll just try to share a little bit about myself. So I grew up in different cities of Pakistan before my dad decided to settle down at the time of his retirement in Islamabad. Not knowing early in my childhood that I will do what I do right now without, having any sense or without even having any bigger dreams, I did my MBA in management, and then I also did my MPhil in human resources. And that was the buzz thing back in 2006, and with that I started my career. I had a huge prerogative of being a first woman, and with that I also had a huge responsibility on my shoulders every time. um, First woman to revamp the admin department, um, and because admin was the thing at that time, and to revamp it into the human resources department. First woman who took that decision in her office, to go outside of the premises and get to meet with client organizations and to get to meet with clients for understanding their learning needs, for coming up with solutions that they would want. First woman in two organizations amongst senior management team. So while that is an honor, at the same time it's a huge responsibility, because uh, people still look up to me, they judge me, while being that role model. It's always hard. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm married and my husband is a great partner. He has always encouraged me, in terms of who I am. He really supports me in all my career aspirations. I love to travel. I have traveled a lot and I love to explore new cultures. I love to get fresh perspectives from people in terms of understanding how, and this helps me to challenge my perspective, that why I think in a certain way and why other things in a different way. So yeah, that's all about myself, other than what I continue to do.
Not all. We'll get to it, Abhi. We are just touching the surface right now. So, a couple of things that you mentioned, right? So, you talked about being the first woman to challenge the status quo, make a few changes, go about doing what you felt was right. And how was it received? And are we talking about there being a lot of resistance, or if not, that's great. But if yes, then how did you maneuver it?
So this is a great question, and obviously, everybody has a journey, and the journey is a tough one. Whosoever is wherever, I know every professional for that matter, regardless of the gender, regardless of the race, regardless of the religion that we all have, we always have a tough journey in our life. And if you ask me about my journey, instead of holding um, external factors accountable or other people, I will say that, for myself, what has come or hampered my ability to excel or thrive were, the obstacles which were in my mind. And that holds true for so many other women. When I started I've coached a lot many women, and then I realized that it's probably a common phenomena. So as an example, I'll say one of it is lack of self confidence. Without having or considering that, I don't have that capability, I don't have confidence, what is going to happen if I'm going to say that, what will happen to my likability factor, all of that is in my mind, like, that was in my mind. So rather than holding someone accountable, I would always rather, question myself. So that is one of them. Another, I will say, was, lack of belief. The self confidence Lack of self confidence leading to lack of self belief, not doing what was right, not standing up for what is important, thinking that, how this pattern will be taken. If I have to say something, will I appear, as outright, will I be appearing as a super confident woman, what will happen? So, all of this is in our mind, and that is where, we need to question that what kind of life do we need to have. And lastly, like, hard to find a voice. Sometimes that happens because, probably you don't have that seat at the table. Sometimes it happens because it's probably the difference in how we are engineered as a gender. So finding that voice and raising that voice and giving a perspective is very, very important. Whether, you have that seat or you don't have that seat, but you have to create that seat for your own self. So I think these were the three things that were hampering my ability, and I realized, with the passage of time, for sure there are stories, as and when I realized, but when I realized, I started working on them. You're on mute, I guess, Samaya.
Oh my God, that's like the key message for 2020 ever since COVID struck. Okay, so tell me a little bit. How did you realize that, all right, it's okay to have a voice? What happened the first time that you decided, and what was it? Do you remember? What was it that made you speak up?
What was it that made me speak up? So there are two stories. There are definitely two stories in my life, and I would love to share those stories with you, because, there are times when you obviously ask, when you pause, you ask yourself, there are moments that, how did you transform into a person who would not only advocate for yourself but also for others to pursue excellence. So I find myself going back to the basics. One is my childhood story. So back to my fundamentals, I was born to incredible parents. Parents who were highly educated, well ahead of their time, and I was their fourth daughter. Far back as I remember, I always made them proud and happy about myself, or at least that's how I feel. But my brother was born, and he was the fifth child. He was born after 1 year and 3 months, and nothing changed for us, like absolutely nothing. And you would understand that how different it is in Pakistan. While, having an equal opportunity or equal share is very, very normal, but more often than not, it is an exception. So my first experience of having this glaring disparity between men and women came at a very younger age. um, it was, in 10th grade, when I wanted to be a head girl, and I was very competitive. I still remember, I knew I had a supporting network in my school. They were all willing to cast votes for me. So I was super confident about myself at that time. But I was told by my teacher that I should continue focusing on my education. More so being a second position holder. And the comment that was made was that, I'm not suited for leadership roles or positions, because my physique did not give that impression as opposed to men. uh, that was the first one. And the second one was, when I entered in the workplace, that was the first time. So I was
Can
working
we
with the chief
pause for a second? Sorry,
sure,
Samia.
sure,
So
sure.
it's a head girl position, correct? So what does the
It's a head
physique?
gun.
Yeah. So where does the physique of a boy come in anyway?
That's a great question, and that was my question as well, to be honest. And that was the
Mm.
first time when I reached out to my class teacher, and probably I was not intending to share this one, but since you asked me, so I brought up, that courage, and I went ahead, and I the next day, I asked my class teacher that what has it got to do, like, am I, and these were my words to her, I still remember, that, am I going to be contesting for being a model or being a wrestler? I still fail to understand. And the response that I had gotten was that, my teacher reached out to other teachers, and she was like, I was not expecting this from Samia, that she will be asking this question from me. I thought that my advice should have been received very well. So that was the first time I challenged, and it didn't come out to be very positive for me. And I'll share, like, it shook me to the core. It had an immense impact on my confidence. I cried for so many days. My whole family members were aware that, oh, that's how she's feeling. But, these moments, I now, when I reflect and I look back at them, I feel these are super important to be,
And
to,
these are
to be part
formative
of the
moments,
experience.
right? These are very, very
Exactly.
formative
Yes, yes,
moments and they
correct.
stay with us. And a lot of times, unfortunately, our teachers, the role models that we have, the mentors of that time, they don't understand what they're saying to us and what sort of impact it has on tiny little selves, right? We're very young then. And particularly, I'm feeling really bad because my daughter, guys, a lot of people already know, my daughter is 10 and a half, right? So I can totally relate, feeling bullied by somebody you're not supposed to feel bullied by. So, okay, but go ahead, carry on. And I'm sorry, and I want to, hug tiny Samia.
Oh, thank you so much. It feels so nice. But now when, I look back at all of it or reflect, it brings smiles on my face. So the second moment was when I was working in my very first organization, and I was working with the chief executive officer. And one comment, and as the whole idea was to organize a workshop for and the employees in the middle management within the organization that I was working for. So without taking any names, while I was working very closely with her, one of the feedbacks that I received from her after the workshop was organized was that, Samya, while everything, the content was great, you did a great job in terms of helping me create the content and the materials, but probably one should think, you should be working on would be to have, and to gather confidence to say what is right and appear as a confident woman. Now, this was another feedback. Probably um, I did not ask for any follow up questions at that time, but again, that was one of the moments that led me to believe and think about myself, that how do I appear when I'm in front of people? What is it that I need to change? Like, how people are perceiving me. And that was the time that when I realized that having self reflection is very important, setting up aggressive goals is very important, looking at yourself from the lens of others is very important and imperative. Where are you right now, where you want to go? All of this is super, super important if you really want to achieve something. And then I started challenging myself that, what should I do more of? What is it that I need to do less of? And also, with that, like, it was a blind spot for me. I still don't know, like, what did she find or what was not right. But obviously I would love to meet that person again and ask for the feedback, that how do you find me right now?
Yep. So look, I found you on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a great way to reach back and find her again. I'm just kidding. But I think this is important, right? So self-reflection, because and you've kind of answered the first couple of questions that I had. Who was the Samia Qamar of yesterday and how have you become the person of today? But I'm sure there are other steps in the journey, which I'd kind of like you to highlight as well, please.
Definitely, I would love to. So when I look back at my journey, like I said, sometimes it really brings smiles looking at how tiny my dreams were, or probably there weren't any dreams at all. Uh, or so when I was a student in MBA, and this is like no joke, I'm sharing. And when guest speakers would be invited, and when they would come, the only thought that I would have in my mind would be that, oh my God, they are iconic personalities, they're lucky personalities. How did they get there? And then the natural question that would come in my mind would be that why would any organization be willing to pay any compensation to me, especially when I don't have any skill or any experience. I don't have anything to offer. Why will they offer? And I would also question myself that why will someone refer me? Because without referrals, nothing happens in Pakistan. At least that's the mindset. So how will I land on those opportunities? And then I would also think that, oh my God, I am a woman. I have to have this likability factor. People should be liking me. So how will I thrive, especially when there are so few women in the labor market? And how am I going to compete against men? These would be my natural questions. And to sum it up, yesterday's Samia was just like any other student who would have, probably, if not everyone, because everybody is unique, but more or less, similar fears about myself, not realizing my whole potential, not realizing that what is in my capacity, what is in my hands, how can I turn around things. Even thinking about having public engagements, I don't think so that I would have ever thought of at that time. So all that I was concerned about was appearing as a perfectionist. And that, in addition to a lot many fears, were bigger than my ambitions. And that is what always, I believe, hampered my ability. So now that I'm here today and I reflect on it, I feel that appearing as a perfectionist is not important. Things need to get moving. That is important. But anyway, these were my previous thoughts, and when I think about them,
No, no,
I
I
really
think
feel
that's
very silly about myself.
no, I think that's okay. I think we have to look back at the younger selves that we are. And obviously, in another year, we'll be looking back and thinking, oh my God, or even like half an hour later, sometimes we reflect back on conversations and we're like, oh my God, why didn't I say this? And why didn't I do that? And especially when it's a confrontational moment, you think about it so much before handling conflict. So I want to come to conflict in a second. But before we do that, I did want to talk a little bit about, well, any obstacle. So you talked about being perfect, and being perfect, there's also another thing that you don't want to fail. So when you failed, what was your reaction, and how did you overcome that, that failure, and make it maybe a lesson or whatever?
Yeah, it took me a lot of time, to be honest. So to begin with, like, the idea was always that I have to win, I have to prove myself, I have to be a perfectionist. Over a period of time, I realized that lifelong learning approach is far more important, rather than investing time in something which at times is not even within our control, or which you shouldn't be even investing your time in. So over a period of time, obviously now my perspective is very clear. I think that every opportunity is a learning opportunity. You have to give out your best shot. If it works out really well, be happy about it, celebrate, those are aha moments. But if it doesn't turn out to be in your favor, understand that that is also part of your learning journey. That is part of the package. Unless and until you don't get to have those obstacles, you cannot be a better human, you cannot be a better professional, or a better person. So that is like, that transforms you. And my transformation, and again, I'm not sure if you will ask or not, it goes back to so many people who have shaped my perspective about myself. It's not me who came up one sudden day, because there is a list of mentors and coaches with whom I continue to work with, and who had given me a lot of feedback over time, and I was open to getting that feedback. So obviously, like, now I realize that it's super important to have those learning opportunities as well. So those obstacles should not be taken as something that should put us down. We lose when we actually give up on our dreams, when we give up on our effort of getting up again. So that should never hamper our ability. As long as you are willing to get up after every failure, you are still surviving. You are still working towards your success. But the moment when you say that this is it, I cannot get up, I cannot do anything, that is where, where you have actually embraced failure. These are just my thoughts.
So, loving what you're saying, right? So, the last thought, the quick nugget that I do want to repeat is how you're saying, look, you need to take action. It doesn't matter. Do it in bite sizes. Think about what you're going to learn in the long run rather than just, oh, okay, fine, I need to be super good at this and waste your time absorbing stuff, which a lot of us do, right? Because we end up studying one thing and then we end up going into careers which are completely unrelated. And then we have to learn all over again. And we think, oh my God, why are we doing this? But I think that's important because in today's world we have got to keep learning, we have to keep hustling, otherwise sooner or later there's going to be somebody else who's ready to replace us. So the other piece that I do want to reflect what you mentioned just now, right, about your mentors and supporters. um, did you actively realize that these people are very important in your journey, in your professional career and your personal career as well, your personal life as well?
Absolutely. Right now, I cannot even think about having my journey in their absence. I have many reasons. So, the power of mentors is limitless. It's totally limitless. And when I look back, all my decisions, all my good decisions, all my life transformational moments, all my maybe, you know, different choices were defined because of the cluster of the network and the fantastic mentors and coaches that I have. They are like, the professional, I have them from my professional network. I also have them as part of my family members. So my relationship with them is not just limited to work, but it's a living experience. And it's not just, I don't I, so I basically, I love to make relationships, build those relationships and keep those relationships, because I believe that they are lifelong, they never end. So it's not just specific to any organization, and they are the inspiration behind me, who I am, and I owe them back big time. It's a fulfilling experience that, when I try to confide in them, when I share, and all the advices that I get, and at the same time I get so many different perspectives. So right now, if you ask me, I have three coaches. One coach is located in the US, one is in the EMEA, and third one is in the Asia Pacific. So I get a very enriched sort of a perspective, um, and the blind spots that I don't get to see quite often about myself. I share my, victorious moments with them, I share my difficult moments with them, and I get a lot of advices. In the absence of that, I don't think I'll be able to operate today or ever.
You know why I came back on screen very quickly before letting you answer? Because I got reminded of our first conversation. So it absolutely helps when you say you're in the business of developing long-term relationships. It helps that both of us like to talk as well, right? And I was remembering our first conversation where we just ended up da 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 going on and on and on. Can I ask you, how many of your close network of friends, mentors are actually women?
I haven't counted them, but I can count it today for you. Yeah, just let me one moment, please. Very close one. If you ask very close one, so if you are asking from this number of three, if the number is from three, then two are women and one is man. At the same time, so I have an extended network too. And so for me, what is important, while I always, get the perspective of a woman, but since majority of times women think alike, I purposefully also make a conscious effort of reaching out to men to have their perspective, which is always very different. But at the same time, it not only reflects how different we are, but sometimes I really find, in fact, I should say most of the times, I find some meaningful solutions that, we as women um, think less of. So
Yes, absolutely.
the diversity and the richness of, the of mentors is also very important.
Yeah, I actually wanted you to highlight. Thank you so much for answering the questions the way I want you to. I love you. Look, I think that's really important. I really wanted this to come out, right? Because a lot of times there is that perception, that negative perception that women are holding women back. And I keep hearing that again and again, not particularly in this show, but in other sessions. And I think we forget the power of having women who've got your back and the power of men who've got your back. Because at the end of the day, you need both the allies. And absolutely, I completely agree. In my experience, women will give you strategies. how they've maneuvered, how they managed to cross different obstacles, what I'm basically asking you to do today. At the same time, men will tell you, okay, stop being so non-confident about yourself. What's this insecurity? Where is this coming from? You're fantastic. Oh my God, you know what? I've got a subordinate and he's this director and he doesn't know jack compared to what you know, right? And sometimes you need that. So I think it's just, I think diversity is really important. So I'm glad you brought that up. There is a question from Madiha. So let's pull that up. She's asking, please share about your lead journey.
Sure, definitely. I would love to share my journey. But before I share, I will say one thing to you, Summer, that this comes up in many of my conversations, and I'll say that I'm very, very lucky. I'm lucky because I've had amazing women in my network. Those women who have always reached out themselves to set me up for success. So from that perspective, I'm very, very lucky. It's probably a perception where we probably have built it, or I don't know, the experiences can vary depending on from one individual to another. You and I, we are a perfect example. I didn't know you, probably you didn't know me before you saw my profile on LinkedIn, and likewise I did. And we ended up in this beautiful relationship. So it's always about what we give, rather than what we are asking for. Before we ask for anything, we should obviously reciprocate the principle of giving. That's my belief. Okay, so coming to this question of lead journey. Sorry, Madiha, I guess. Madiha is the name.
Yes,
So,
Madiha.
okay, Madiha, she wants to know about the lead journey. My lead journey, it was 1 year long journey with Stanford Graduate School of Business. There are multiple courses which are being offered. Some of them are optional. In fact, six of them, I believe, are optional and two are mandatory. If you really need additional details, I'm more than happy to give you those details. Currently, I am engaged with them as their executive coach, as well as facilitator. So feel free to reach out to me separately, and I'll be more than happy to share all the details, including the courses. Whether I was able to be helpful or not, I don't know. So if there are any specific questions, more than happy to take them offline.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Samia. So Madiha is watching. Thanks, Madiha. Now you know what to do afterwards as well. You can contact Samia through LinkedIn. She's very active there. All right. So coming back, right? So I want to ask you about who is your inspiration.
Oh, it's a great question. I have a lot many people, honestly, but it will be an unfair to make that all of them, like honestly, all of them. I get to learn, like every interaction that I get to have with people, I always see that what I can learn from them. But that said, obviously there is an inspiration. I will say Michelle Obama, and that is because she has a huge self-respect for herself, and she really knows how to respect other people. And she's a role model not only for African American women, but so many women out there. And she actively works for building communities. She encourages young people, she challenges them to think hard. um, Back in 2011, on her trip to South Africa, she spoke to all of those young women, and she said that leadership is not about age, leadership is not about status. You should be the one who should be the problem solver of the future and take up that responsibility for banishing hunger and HIV/AIDS. So that is where I will say that arguably, she's a progressive lady. What I love about her is that she's a star. She doesn't want to be defined by who she is. Meaning that she doesn't want to be introduced as a wife of her president husband, but rather she has her own identity. That is what makes her really special. That is what I really love about her. She's an inspiration, and she makes a huge positive impact on hundreds and thousands of people. So that is why I think she's an inspiration for me.
Thank you, Samia, for sharing. We've got a question again. Madiha is asking, could you share how your experience was and how did it help in your career journey?
This is with regards to lead, I'm assuming. Oh, it was awesome. I will say that, so with regards to transformation, while there are so many recipes of success, I cannot say who I am. Like, I cannot say that only this thing worked or that worked, but definitely this was one of the biggest things in my life which really changed my perspective, and so especially my vision. My vision was too small before I joined Stanford. Now my it has helped me to have my own sense of purpose, that really where do I want to go, what is the type of impact I want to create. So that helped me shaped and that helped me challenge and question about my sense of purpose and vision. So definitely it was I believe I attribute a lot of my success to my this lead journey.
All right, so let's
It will not be an unfair statement to make.
So, considering you just mentioned, so as a segue, I think it's a nice segue into understanding what are your goals for 2021. And because this is it's the first month of 2021, and everybody seems to have brushed off, it's like everybody was thinking we'll step into the new year, and there's no COVID anymore. And people are, by the way, pretending like that as well. But anyway, so tell us about, this particular year, what you hope to accomplish, and also guide our followers and listeners. When you're setting goals, is it better to set 5-year goals? People always ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the answer is always confused, right? Because who thinks that far ahead? So anyway, so I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to understand. And if you can offer strategies, that would be wonderful.
Of course, I'm more than happy to share. So basically, like I said, there are two things, important ones, and I'll share my goals. But before I share my goals, I'll say that I always give a lot of importance to two things now. One is the sense of purpose. Where am I right now? Where do I want to go? What's the type of impact I would like to create? And so my sense of purpose is on my LinkedIn too, which is nurture the talent for scalable business and for sustainable planet. Now, in order for me to do so, I break it down into small goals every year. And I'll talk about my goals. Another is that whatever I'm doing, that should definitely have an impact. If I am having a conversation with someone, just investing my time is not enough. Saying that I've had a meeting is not enough unless and until I'm creating that impact on the life of someone. If I'm coaching someone, it definitely should translate into making a difference to the life of that person. That is how I attribute, I will say, impact. So whatever we are doing, we should definitely question what impact are we trying to create. If there is no impact, then probably investing my time may not be a good idea. Secondly, with regards to goals, I have I have major goals. One is to combat child abuse, and for that, I have worked partially with Chrissy Sykes, where I try to socialize my body is my body program in 2020, but I was still not able to complete the whole journey, where the idea was to socialize it with all the teachers in schools, with academicians. So that one, I again, it goes back to my laziness, or maybe if I have to hold someone accountable, it will be COVID-19, but that is not my idea of doing. I don't blame others. So that is where I will question myself. So that is definitely part of my plan in 2021, where I'll go ahead and I'll start socializing. Second is to work on global projects. And when I say global projects, um, then that is where my affiliation with Shram, where I would definitely like to work on something more impactful, where I've thought about creating some content where we can mitigate cognitive biases. So that is my plan. And lastly, doing something for others, that is something very, very important, and it holds always very, very close to my heart, that if I can help others in some form and fashion, um, may it be free coaching, may it be providing financial assistance to anyone. So all of that also helps shape me a better human being and a better person. So definitely these three are my goals. Other than that, if you want to ask me with regards to my profession, they are quite different. They will be like some matrix. How am I going to reduce the attrition? How am I going to increase the engagement of our people in the company? How am I going to work on some other important stuff? But those are very, very measurable, but these are personal goals. So I thought you were interested to know about my personal ones, so I think I've shared.
And I'm just thinking that maybe you shouldn't have told me, because now I'm going to really help on the last personal goal, definitely, both the last two that you mentioned. personal coaching, mentoring, etc., because we always have a pool of young people looking for that. And the other piece, financial assistance as well. We can discuss both these things offline. I think, there are thoughts that I have around both these areas, right? So I don't know if you should have shared or not, but definitely 2021, if that's your goal, I'm going to help you achieve those two things. I think I can help. All right, so we're drawing towards the end of our particular session, right? So there are a couple of questions that are left. One is, what are three life lessons, or there could be one or two, or whatever, but um, if you could think of three life lessons to share with both young people, young men and women both. So that's one question. And then the last one that I would like you to tackle is about how young men and women should navigate their career in order to make it successful.
Definitely. So, in terms of my life lessons, I touched base on it slightly, but I'll say that, if you have an opinion, then don't be afraid to share it just because it's not going to be liked by someone. Don't be in a room and not have a voice. Have a voice at a right time, and also help others to find their voice. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever comes to your mind you should just go ahead and say it. At least have some background homework, that what is it that ticks with someone, or what does the market trend say, for example. What is it that the businesses are doing. So whenever you say something, before you say something, do your homework. I think that is one of the lessons that stuck to me. Second is that confidence is the best accessory. The only thing that anyone should wear well is confidence. And lastly, having self awareness is very, very important, because knowing yourself, what is it that you like, what are your preferences, how can you work, in what kind of organization you can work, what are your passions, you will know. Like, it's me who would know, nobody else will know. And also learning from mistakes, owning those mistakes, not trying to cover up. If somebody has done something wrong, it takes a lot of courage to admit those mistakes, and that is something which takes people to bigger and impactful journeys. And so one should never settle for less. There is no other person than yourself to realize your own potential and your own success, personal your own success to personal excellence. Like, nobody's going to come and say that, okay, you can do this or you can do that. It's you who has to decide what is right for you. Nobody can take your decision power, but at the same time, once you make that decision, or when you are in the power of making that decision, then own it as well. And own every bit of it. Own those mistakes as well, because they also teach us something, and they route us in the right direction, regardless of the failures that we have. So these are my lessons, and they are very close to my heart. And every time, whenever I go through a failure, I always remind myself that if this is a failure, then this time will also pass. And then I have so many other successes as well. So celebrating those successes, and embracing those failures is super important for us to be balanced human beings and balanced personalities. So these are my lessons. And I would love to hear lessons of others, if there are any different lessons. But for me, these are the ones that stick to me.
अब क्योंकि आपने पूछ लिया है तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली आंसर भी देना पड़ता है राइट पीपल हु लाइक टू टॉक हैव टू रिस्पॉन्ड बट एनीवे आई वुड जस्ट शेयर वन लेसन बाय द वे व्हिच आई थिंक इज रियली रियली इंपॉर्टेंट actually two. So one is obviously being humble. I think it's really really key. No matter how successful you're becoming, just think back to the tree. So when the tree is bearing fruits, that's the time when the tree should be standing up taller and being like, oh my God, I've got, fruits, and that's it. Everybody come and try and take my fruits, right, from me. Except it bends. And wo jhuk jata hai aage, it bends forward and it says, here, this is what I have to offer. Similarly, when good things are happening for you, the best thing to do is actually become as humble as possible. So that's one lesson. And the other one is obviously thinking about the impact, like you mentioned. What is the impact of your actions? What is the legacy that you're leaving behind? And thinking in a way that it is not thinking short term, right? Because a lot of times impact is not short term. I mean, of course, you've spent 5 hours and then there is a response. Sometimes people send you an email that's really nice and, recognition for your hard work. But at the end of the day, think about the long term impact and think about the fact that it will come back to your future generations, right? So in a way, just remembering that, okay, every goodwill that you're popping into a little well, it doesn't matter if it overflows. It will help somebody else, somebody that you care about, right? So I think, and when I say future generations, not necessarily your own children, it is the future generations of the world as well. So anyway, okay, just because you asked,
I love
okay, so
it. I love
tell
it.
me
I
two
love it.
lessons. Okay,
I
so
really love it.
before we jump to the final question, a young startup from KP is asking about EV industry. So he's produced a prototype of an electric vehicle. He used to be incubated at NIC Peshawar, excellent fellow. So he's asking, there's no data for local EV manufacturing. How and could you assist making a financial projection for such a startup? Okay,
Okay, it's a
I
tough
don't know.
one.
Yeah.
While it's a tough question, but I'll still, I would love to support. If I promise, if I'm not able to help you, I will find someone to help you. So please
Okay.
feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome.
I'll at
So
least connect you with someone.
Moyuddin, feel free to reach out directly through LinkedIn, or else if Samia doesn't respond, then come back to me. I will remind her. I will
I
remind her.
promise. I promise I will respond. But that's a
अच्छा,
good way.
अब last question था, ठीक है, which was about strategies, sharing strategies with young people as they are trying to find their successful career paths. What would be your advice for them?
I have a couple of them. Two of them I've already spoken of. One is having a sense of purpose, because without having that purpose, the internal motivation is not there. You would never know what's going to be the roadmap for the short term execution. So, having that sense of purpose is very important. Who you are, what you love, what are your aspirations, what would you like to achieve, why do you want to achieve, and then setting up, short term goals in order for you to achieve. Having an impact, I've already spoken about it. I won't take a lot of time. Then a couple of things which and this is with regards to my observation while working with the younger generation. One would be, my advice would be to have a growth mindset. It's very important. Men and women primarily are interested in the upper trajectory in terms of having promotions, and not necessarily about the personal growth. So I've always preferred personal growth over levels, and there is a reason, because personal growth has a direct correlation, it has a direct relationship with the upper trajectory. And so what is most important is that, challenging your own assumptions, being open to more or different or fresh or creative ideas, having a clarity of your purpose, having an approach where you can learn something, expanding your horizons, not just thinking or saying that what you said is right, because there is no right or wrong. Finding why behind how businesses operate, or what impact can you create. These are some of the things that I would definitely urge others. um, Obviously everybody would love to, to be promoted and to have, um, preferential or positions of authority or preferential titles. But that said, as long as you are not growing as a human being, you are not growing as a professional, all of this goes into the drain, because then that success becomes very, very short term. And to Summer's point earlier, that obviously there is a lot of competition, there is a war for talent, somebody else will replace you, somebody else will be a substitute of you. So having that approach is very, very important. And taking accountability of actions, that is also very important. So if you are not, for example, if you're not able to deliver on a project just because your coworker didn't put in weight, instead of blaming the coworker, um, the same statement can be rephrased, that you did not deliver because you didn't set up a team that was successful enough to deliver results. When it begins from you, then obviously, that's a sense of accountability. It helps you prepare for bigger roles. It also helps you build your own credibility throughout your career, and it helps you be a better person at the same time. Lastly, there are a couple of others as well, but important ones would be that invest time in building relationships with people within the organization and outside of the organization. You have no idea about the quality of your network, that how it can take you to different places. The rule of networking, again, it's very I have found it a lot in Pakistan, that the moment you get connected, it's always advisable to share in the interest of other, that how best you can support someone, rather than immediately asking for your own self. And believe it or not, but the principle of reciprocity works a lot. um, you will land onto amazing opportunities that you don't even have any idea of. And you don't have to, like, purposefully and consciously you should be making that effort. People who make you uncomfortable, people with whom you think it's difficult to connect and talk, like, have these goals for yourselves, and then it definitely pays off, rather than investing your time in talking to those people whom you know forever and ever and ages. Like that won't take you anywhere. So having those loose connections always help. um, Build those connections, offer what you can help in terms of the skill, in terms of the time, even connecting two people within your network. All of this is something that you are offering, while you're offering for free, but at the same time you are investing and doing something good for others, and that takes you to unknown opportunities or unimaginable opportunities. I'll also say that the best choices begin and end with you. Nobody else is going to come for you, or nobody else. This is one of the things that I get to hear a lot from the younger talent on majority of occasions, when they say that my manager is not interested, my manager is not doing this for me. Nobody's accountable, or nobody's responsible for your career and your destination. So you have to do it for your own self. If you want to build your legacy, it's yours. It's your choice if you would not want to swim upstream against those norms. So you have to pave your own path, you have to have your legacy, and dream big and think big. And I'll say give wings to your dreams, because nobody can take those dreams, nobody can tell you that they are small. They are yours, and you have to bring life to your dreams. um, Lastly, if I have to sum it up, usually, please don't hate me for saying this, but usually this is super important for women. So that is where I would love to motivate all those women who are there. So we as women, we need to reshape our own perception about ourselves, and we need to step up, and we need to take a lead. But that said, it doesn't stop for any other gender over here. I just want to be inclusive at the same time. So yeah, these are some of the advices that I have, that I thought I would love to share with you all.
Thank you so much, Samia. I think there are so many nuggets of wisdom over here. If only people would listen, and hopefully they will, and hopefully they will come back and listen some more. And one of the things that I decided to do, one of my personal goals, is to actually recap some of the stuff that is being said, the true nuggets, and extracting them. So let's see if I get around to doing that. Then I'll tag you and then reshare it so more people get to hear it. But I think there are tons and tons of nuggets over here. So thank you so much for sharing. It has been inspirational. I'm so glad that we ended up talking when we did and we set this up, and looking forward to a lot more together in 2021. So thank
Absolutely.
you
We
very,
spoke
very
about it. Yeah, we spoke about it 3 months ago, and it's now 2021.
yeah. Oh my God. So, alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Samia. Madiha is also, see, she's resonating. She's saying wisdom is fully loaded here.
Thank you. That's so
Absolutely.
kind of her.
All right. So, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so thank you very, very much, people, for watching. Much, much appreciated. So glad that Madiha was asking so many questions. I always feel not enough people ask questions. So please do ask them, because each and every one of our guests is very open to answering your queries, your questions. And most of them actually offer their time afterwards as well, right? So that's yeah, I guess I choose really awesome people. I'm fully owning my good decision, my good decisions over here. Anyway, all right. So before I sign off, I quickly wanted to alert everybody that we are starting an investment boot camp from 11th till the 15th of January. So do watch the highlights. Take a look, because it's all about fantastic women entrepreneurs, and it's all about investment and fundraising. So if people are interested in investing in women-led businesses, even when they're super, super early on, please do not hesitate to drop me direct messages. So that's one. The other call to action for you guys is to keep watching, because on the 21st of December, we're hosting Epiphany Talks with a very, very well renowned scholar and academic, Dr. Christian Bush. So I'm super excited about that. And I hope that you guys will tune in for a conversation about serendipity. That's same time, 8 p.m. Thursday, January the 21st, 2021. All right, that's it from my side. And bye bye. Have a great day.